and
Got a call or a telegram?
I got a Red Cross, and they got me on a ride on an Air Force plane
Yeah.
back to Washington. I took the train up and went home for the funeral.
Had he been sick? Didn't he?
Yes,
He had a brain tumor?
He had a brain tumor, and I was home maybe on leave before I went to California. He had a brain tumor, and when it was over, my mother knew it was malignant and didn't tell him, but I knew and Tom knew, and he was going to grow back, and it did, and so it must have been 4 or 6 months later. I'm out on the West Coast, and I got the call, and he died. And I saw him. Well, I saw him for a couple of days before he died, but he was pretty much out of it, but very depressed.
Really?
Yeah. Well, he was a young man. He was 48 years old.
Oh, I didn't know
And
that. I didn't know that.
and
48.
he had plans, and he was very young. And comparatively, I didn't realize how young that was.
Sure. Yeah.
So we had no tearful goodbyes or any of that. So it just faded. Had the priest in. And all.
Yeah. And any other memories of him? I mean.
Yeah, they're all favorable, very responsible, reliable.
Yeah.
Always there.
Right.
He and my mother would read at night, listen to the radio. We didn't have TV in those days. In the summertime, he'd be on the porch down in Palm Beach having a Tom Collins once in a while. He didn't drink neither one of them drank very much. And he'd come home he'd commute from the city and take the bus and come down. He'd usually go for a swim. He'd go down with his bathrobe on, and we'd usually get down with him and watch him and keep him company.
Yeah.
And so it was a very pleasant, healthy,
happy,
normal life. Oh yeah, I'd say very happy life.
Yeah.
Yes. My childhood is very happy.
And did you ever get in trouble? Did you ever get in any trouble? I certainly never heard you talk about being in trouble.
I can't remember getting in anything serious.
No. No.
No, I really can't remember. I think about it, but I can't remember.
Right. And when did you start dating anyone before Mom that you were kind of serious about? I remember that Kathleen's mom, Simonson.
Oh yes, right.
You dated her a little bit.
No, I didn't date her.
But you remember her? You remember
Pat Simonson?
You remember the grandfather with the handlebar mustache or something?
Right, it was her father.
Yeah, her father.
Yeah.
But you never dated her?
No.
Yeah.
She was a very pretty little blonde girl, but she dated a friend of mine, a fellow lifeguard who was a year or two younger than me. And she was younger than him, so she was a little young for me. But he was dating her. I guess if he hadn't been, I might have. But there were a lot of girls down the beach, and they were your lifeguards, so they'd always come up and.
Right.
And I went out with quite a few of them over the 5 summers I was down there.
Yeah.
And
you smoked then? Everybody smoked.
I started. Tom did. His friends. I was a sophomore, and you were allowed. We had a smoking room in Regis and for seniors, and I can remember smoking as a junior. I know.
You smoked. I remember you used to smoke Kent's.
I don't remember. I think
you don't remember? Well, I don't know what you smoked in Regis, but I know what you smoked before you stopped. You were smoking Kent's.
That could have been.
And I remember seeing some ad where they were trying to market. I saw some old ad where they were trying to market Kent's as like the thinking man's cigarette or something. Does that make any sense?
That doesn't strike a bell at all.
Yeah.
And I kept smoking for years, of course.
Yeah. And then, lifeguard, and then the FBI, right?
Well, after college.
Yeah. Well, let's hit
well,
Fordham. Anything happened at Fordham?
Well, I went
first
to Fordham.
base on the baseball team. Right?
Yeah, but that was in freshman year, and then I went in the Army. When I came back, I was commuting from Brooklyn every day for 3 years, and and that was a hell of a commute. That was up at Fordham to the Bronx. That was worse than Regis. But my mother was alone. Well, not alone, but Tom was in school and may have been married during part of the time. And it was just Ginny and Barbara home. So, and I didn't know what the finances were, so I didn't want. I had the veterans benefits, so the tuition was paid for, but board and room wouldn't be. So, I think I got $75 a month from the Army.
Yeah.
So I stayed home and finished college. So college was not, the last 3 years were not a very tremendous, satisfying experience. It was not college like you had it,
Right.
you know, or the kids did.
Yeah.
But that's the way it was, you know. And I graduated and didn't know what I wanted to do, and I finally got this job with. I like the idea of advertising. As I told you
Yeah.
earlier, I took the advertising association test and did pretty well in creativity, and got a job as a trainee, basically. And I guess I was 23 years old then.
Mm.
And but by that time I had been going with your mother for about a year, I guess, maybe even longer, and we were engaged. So you know, I wasn't making a hell of a lot of money, $50 a week probably.
Sure.
So then I heard from some friends about the openings for the FBI. They were holding tests, and so I went down and took the test, and I guess I did pretty well. And they said, well, you know, the minimum age is 25. Would you be interested in another job in Washington other than special agent? And I said, no, I have a job, and I'm not looking for a job. So apparently they needed people then. It was the atomic energy, it was the Cold War,
Right.
and so they were waiving some of their strict requirements.
Right.
So they waived the age for me, and I went down to Washington in Washington and Quantico, Virginia, and for I don't know 16, 18 weeks, and
Yeah.
trained and all of the legal stuff and the firearms and the defensive tactics and things
Yeah.
like that.
Did you like it? Did you like the FBI?
I did, very much.
What did you like about it? I mean, just the reputation. You were all well thought of. I mean, it was
The status.
sort of elite. Yeah.
The status, it was, the money was good because I think I got paid $6,500 a year, including half a day on Saturdays, I
Really?
guess. And my brother had graduated and went to work for IBM the first year or so. I don't think he was making $5,000.
No.
So the government tended to pay, in the early stages, tended to pay pretty well.
Yeah.
So that part, but more importantly was the status, you
Sure.
know, reputation, doing something important,
Yeah.
not a desk job,
Right.
sitting in an office,
Sure.
commuting, walking to work or something like that.
And the Cold War. I mean, it was serious.
And the Cold War made it extremely serious.
Yeah.
And I went out to, my first office was Kansas City, and you always go to, the first office was a training office, and you stayed there for about a year maybe, and then they shifted you to someplace else. And I spent most of the time in Kansas City, but I spent a lot of time in Springfield, Missouri, as they pronounce it, which is in the southwestern portion of the state. And there I worked with an older senior agent who used to be in the Missouri Highway Patrol, and they called him Dime Ass. he
Dime
was
Ass?
such a skinny guy.
Oh.
When he rode a motorcycle for the Highway Patrol,
Yeah.
I guess he looked like he could hardly fit in the seat. He's a pretty good guy, tough guy. You learn some good things from him.
Yeah.
And down there, we did a lot of draft dodges,
Bank robbery.
stolen cars, bank robberies.
Yeah. Brinks. Were you on the Brinks case then? Or?
Well, I covered leads on the Brinks
Yeah.
case,
Yeah.
but those days, those leads were all over the place.
Sure.
Anybody that was in Boston during that period of time, I don't know how they must have lived in a hotel up there. They got the names and numbers, and they'd send out leads, and some of the ones you'd cover, you know.
Yeah.
And But we had a bank robbery when we were down there. There was a bank robbery when I was in
Uh-huh.
Kansas City. And the senior agents would do most of the work, but you'd be covering little leads, watching this road, checking the airports, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And that was exciting, that was
Yeah.
fun. And
Did you ever catch any bad guys?
yeah, we did. We had mostly the draft dodges, the stolen cars, things like that. You get leads, and usually you'd have another agent with you if you had any time. You know,
Does the name Cabbage Head Thompson ring a bell?
Cabbage Head Thompson. That was in Cleveland.
Oh, it was.
That was Cleveland.
Okay.
Yeah, we went
Well,
to
we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves because we haven't talked about Mom. So maybe we should
Sure.
let's flip back to Mom. So do you remember the day you met her? Had you been hearing about her before you?
No.
Even,
Uh,
did you meet her?
I knew her oldest sister. I didn't know her,
Dottie?
Dottie. She used to.
You knew Dottie first?
not know her, but
Right. You knew who she was.
Well, you know, we had Tom worked in a candy store that was owned by a family, a friend of ours, who I still talk to.
Not that candy store at the end of on the old entrance to East Atlantic Beach. Not that.
No.
No.
It was in the middle of Long Beach,
Okay.
and Tom worked there for a while, and we'd hang out there. And the young guys, they'd walk the beach street. That was the main street, and she'd walk. I remember her walking with some other girl, and be strolling up and down, and so I knew who she was. You know,
Yeah.
her father was
Dottie or Eileen?
Dorothy.
Yeah.
Dottie.
Dorothy.
And then maybe a year or two later, I don't know, we went to a beach party,
Yeah.
and there your mother was, and she looked somewhat like her sister, but
Yeah.
better looking, I thought, sort of blonde. And so we started going out, and I don't know what year.
Did you go? Remember? Do you remember? Did you go up to her? Did she go up to you? Do you just? Did
We
someone
were in
introduce you that night?
No, well, sort of, but we were with a couple of guys,
Yeah.
a couple of girls, maybe a dozen.
Yeah.
I think it was a beach party.
Yeah.
And got to know her, and I don't remember, you know, blow by blow, but got to know her and was very attracted to her. Got her phone number, and
What'd you like about her? She's a pretty girl.
pretty, and yeah, primarily pretty and friendly, you know,
Yeah.
good sense of humor, and
Laughed easily.
yeah. So we went, and then I'd see her at we had a lot of parties, a lot of young kids,
Yeah.
not formal parties, but
Right.
somebody's house.
Right.
We'd all be drinking beer. She was a year or two younger than I was, so she didn't go.
Is that all? Mom is only a couple years younger than you.
Oh, just a year or two.
Is
yeah.
that right?
Yeah,
I thought it
maybe
was.
maybe two.
Huh. And you met when you were what, 23, and she was 21? No, you were much earlier, right? She
no.
was 17 and you were 19, or?
Let's see, that was I was back from the Army, and I was probably in my last year at Fordham, and I got out of Fordham in '50. So I was 22, 23. And she was probably 21. Maybe she was 21. No, she wasn't 21. She must have been younger than that. Because she had graduated from St. Agnes.
I think she had me when she was 21.
Yeah, that may be true. Yeah, in St. Agnes over in Rockville Center, and she went to Marymount,
Yeah.
in New York City.
I was 30 when Mom died, and she died when she was 56,
Yeah,
right? So
Yeah.
she had me when she was 26, right?
yeah. Well, I was 23 when we got married.
You were 23.
Yeah.
And so how many years did you date?
Probably 2 years.
2 years. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you dated for a couple of years, and you got to know the family.
Yes.
Yeah. And did you like Mama and Papa?
Yes.
Were they all good to you?
Yes.
They liked you.
Yes. We had because during the wintertime I'm living in Brooklyn, going to Fordham, you know. So I'd come down by train sometimes or something. Usually I'd take the car, my father's Buick, and Tom and I would alternate, take turns, because he was going with his wife to be there during that time. And we'd date, and I'd often stay over at the house.
Oh, you would?
Yeah, and Mama would cook, and Papa would go downstairs and smoke a cigar in the room downstairs. And we'd sometimes have Mama's friend from New York would come down and stay, and
Ethel Brady.
we'd play bridge, somebody, yeah. And we'd go out, you know, hit the local guys, local people that were there.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that went on for a year or two,
Uh-huh.
couple years.
And so when you met, you were a lifeguard or you were in the FBI?
I was a lifeguard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
we were engaged before I joined the FBI.
Yeah.
And you know, I knew I was down in Washington, Quantico for 2, 3, 4 months, and then was signed to Kansas City. So I didn't see your mother for well, we came back after we graduated from Quantico, finished training, came back for maybe we had a week, and I took the car, I drove out, and then I didn't see her again until this was April of 51. I was in the FBI. I joined 51. So this would be April, May of 51, and we got married in October. So I didn't see her for 8 or 9 months.
wow.
Yeah. I mean, we wrote regularly, but we'd call once in a while. But in those days,
Sure.
you didn't use the phone that much,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And
It was
I worked out in
expensive.
Kansas City and Springfield with a bunch of other guys that were new first office guys,
Right.
in training. And then we came back, got married. The Carthouse's parents, Dorothy had a big wedding that they talked about for years, and
So Dorothy had already married.
yes,
Yeah.
and they wanted to give Eileen, an equally decent wedding, which
Yeah.
they did. It was a beautiful place
Yeah.
up on the North Shore of Long Island. Glenwood Landing, I think, was the name of the town. But I think it really strapped them. I think it was they were having financial troubles.
Oh.
He was in the real estate business, but he was kind of stuck in his ways. And when her brother Eddie came home from the army, and he'd been over there at the Battle of the Bulge.
Yeah.
I think he'd been wounded, and
Is that right?
I think he might have been wounded.
Huh.
Not seriously, but he had a tough time. But he wanted to expand the business, but the father wouldn't have anything to do with it, and other people were just undercutting him, and he was not doing very well. And they were a little bit, Mama and Papa, as they call them, were a little bitter about it. And they really they were in trouble, and they didn't know how. And there was no way to help him, I didn't know any of this, and your mother didn't know any of it, really.
Right. At
She
the time.
suspected some of it,
Yeah.
yeah. So we got married, went back out to Kansas City for a couple of months, and drove all the way out. And we decided to drive right through after we stopped over in Pennsylvania the first night, and then we kept going. It's dark, and we're going through Kansas. Is it Kansas? No, we weren't. It must have been Nebraska, Illinois, Nebraska, and there's all this fields and fields of corn, which your mother. This is April, so it was October.
Yeah.
So it was, she was a little bit upset,
Yeah.
crying. I had an apartment arranged, furnished apartment.
We're not at the beach anymore.
No, we weren't at the beach, and she cried a little bit. But then, the next day, it was fine. I went back to work.
Huh.
and she went to downtown, and got a job at Higbee's department store.
I didn't know that.
She was a model. I never covered that. When she
Yeah.
went to school for a couple of years, and then she became a model for this hat company. She and Dorothy worked there too.
Oh, Dorothy worked at that?
Yeah, and they were sort of models. and
Full-time models for the hat company?
for the cat. Well, they try to sell customers. They were coming buyers.
I see.
And I don't know whether they had shows or not. But she had model photographs.
Yeah.
She took them, and then she did a few modeling assignments besides that. We
Yeah.
had some pictures home, and then but she went out to the stores. She was easy. They were happy to have her working in the hat department.
Yeah.
She knew all about it, you know.
Right,
And
sure.
women wore hats in those days.
Right.
They don't do that
Right.
much now.
I heard that Mom was offered the cover of Glamour or Mademoiselle if she would have. But all they wanted to do was get her hair cut in a shortcut called a shingle. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, I remember hearing that
She was
story
pretty
too.
young. I think she was
Yeah.
like 16 or so.
Yeah, I didn't know her then,
Yeah.
but
And then Richard Avedon, you remember that story about, it was the time of the It Girls, and if you were the It Girl, you were the top model of
Yeah.
the year or whatever. Dorothy had kept pushing Mom to model,
Yeah,
and Mom
yeah.
didn't really care that much. And
No.
And anyway, so she went in to see Richard Avedon one day, excuse me, and Richard Avedon came out from his inner office, and there are all these gals there, and he picks Mom, and it's you, and had her in there for hours photographing her, but nothing ever came of it.
no.
You remember that one? No.
I don't remember specifically about Avedon. It was after my time, I
Right.
guess.
But was she? Today, models have such status, and
Yeah.
But was she like drop dead gorgeous? Was everyone talking about how attractive Mom was? Was she another pretty girl on the beach, or was she, was she known as just a really terrific looking gal?
Yeah, she was. She was not. She was a small woman, as you know, and thin, and was not a model.
Yeah.
Bathing suit model, but she had a very photographic face.
Photogenic?
Photogenic is
Yeah.
the word I'm looking for. Photogenic face and the blonde hair,
Yeah. Was she all blonde?
No. No.
She had dyed it. But,
Yeah, sure.
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 But was it
A lot of it was sunshine, but then
Yeah.
later was aided.
well, like
by-
all the girls?
Sure, absolutely.
And so
It's a good contrast
yeah.
with her tan and the
Yeah.
rest of it. And she was, I'd say she was very cute.
Cute.
Cute
Yeah.
would be probably a better word
Yeah.
for it. And but I guess she was not really. Maybe she sensed it was a tough business, and she didn't pursue it too hard.
Right.
But I don't. That was really a little after my time because
Right.
she was when she was younger.
Okay. All right. Okay. I say let's stop.
Good.
Is that good?
Sure.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Let's-
That's enough.
That's enough for now. So